Hello friends, welcome back to a new video. In this one, I'll be setting up my bullet journal for the month of February. So without further ado, we're gonna start with the cover page, even though it's not the first page that I worked on the day of me actually preparing this. So definitely let me know in the comments if you prefer to see my future videos in this subsequent order, so cover page, monthly log, weeklies, etc., or if you would prefer to see it in the order in which I created it, so basically monthly log first and then the other pages, or whatever order I go for. But basically I'm doing cranes for February, and I can't tell you a specific reason other than I found a really beautiful illustration on tan paper, and that inspired me to put cranes on my bucket list. And then I saw this weekly layout that I really loved, and I wanted to do cranes for February. There isn't really a particular reason. So I knew what I was going to do for the weekly log, wasn't really sure for the other pages. So I collected some inspo images. They were mostly in Japanese style, I'm thinking, but very beautiful. So I'm gonna put on the screen the page that I replicated here. I loved the composition and the way the body is portrayed of the body of these birds. And I'm using my gel pens and this new brush pen that I got. I have a whole video, and I'm gonna have a swatch with me video coming out very soon. But I basically used the mechanical acrylic gel pen, the white one, for the body, which made it very easy to cover the entire thing in opaque white. And then I used the red for the little bit of red that they have on their heads, and then used the black brush pen for the wings, but I didn't always do that. I like the look of it best because it's not very opaque, so if I layer over it, you can still see where one feather begins and the other ends. And you will see later that I didn't always color some of the feathers black because the inspo image didn't, so I colored everything white. But then other images had black feathers, and I referenced some real-life images of these birds, and they do have black feathers, so I decided to make every outer layer of the wings black, basically. I was very excited to set up February, basically at the beginning of January, so I actually went ahead and sketched everything and outlined all of the birds and sketched in the font. I'm using this beautiful font. I'll put it on the screen. I thought about tracing it, but then I was actually too lazy, so I just sketched it. I thought it was easy enough to sketch, so I did, and it turned out really nice. So while I finish off this bird and also start lettering the header, I'm just doing Feb in all caps in the font that I've chosen for this month, using the fine nib of the brush pen. But basically, as you saw, I had all of the sketches of the birds already outlined. That is because I was very indecisive of what medium I wanted to use, but I was also very excited about this theme, so I just did that to placate myself while I settle on a medium, basically. For the monthly log, as you see, we have 2 birds and also individual boxes for the actual calendar. So here I'm just going to outline all of the boxes using the finer end of the brush pen. I was really testing it here because at first it looked like a very fine brush, but it's actually not. It's just a regular felt tip fine liner, and I really appreciate that. I enjoyed using this end as well. Usually they are not so good, but in this case it was, so I really enjoyed it. Anyway, I outlined the entire calendar, and also to add a pop of red, basically I included a circle in the middle top of each square, and that's where I'm gonna put the date number or the day's number. And I really love February. It's very satisfactory to see just 4 weeks with no extra days here or there, because the month starts on a Sunday, and I do a Sunday start personally. But yes, I used the gel pen to outline the circles with my ruler and then filled them in, then started on the headers, which I had penciled in previously in that font. And I tried my best to have them fit the width of the square, but they didn't always. Sometimes they crossed over a little bit, but that was fine. As I mentioned earlier, I had all of the sketches outlined because I was very indecisive, and the reason why I was indecisive is because I'm doing this art challenge, the Stash Smash. I do have a video about it as well, but basically I'm trying to avoid using gouache or acrylic brush pens in all of my themes, because that's basically what it was last year, either one of the two. And I have a lot of art supplies, and I love using other art supplies, but I don't default to them basically. So I'm doing a conscious effort this year to not use those mediums unless absolutely necessary, or I really want to use them, because I do enjoy using them. And for this theme, I was torn between watercolors and oil-based coloring pencils. And I was really leaning towards oil-based coloring pencils, but one thing held me back, which is basically the only other time I've used that medium in my bullet journal. It was also a black, white, and red theme. And that really turned me off that medium entirely. Also, I wanted the birds to look matte. Don't ask me why I was very particular about the finish, but I really didn't want it to look shiny, which coloring pencils, oil-based ones at that, usually are. So while I was going back and forth, I ended up ordering these pens. And I was like, I have the colors that I need, so why not just wait for them until they arrive? But in the meantime, I decided to, kill some time of the setup process by outlining everything. I'm really enjoying how the calendar is coming together. It's very, very nice. You can't really see the numbers inside of the circle, but I can see them in real life, so that's fine. I tried to pick a red that is a true red, but it ended up being less bright than I needed, but I think that was the correct choice anyway, because this is the best red that looked or matched with the tan paper basically. Here we're looking at a close-up of me filling in the bird basically. I'm using the mechanical acrylic gel pen. This is a 0.7 nape, and it's very juicy, it's very nice. If I needed quicker coverage, I will go with the 1mm acrylic gel pen, that is. And then for the black ones, I either used the brush pen or the acrylic gel pen, the mechanical one. And the reason why I'm using the black acrylic gel pen is because here you're actually gonna see me fill in all of the feathers of the wings using the white, until I realized that I actually didn't want to do that. So I went back and covered them with the gel pen, which was very nice because you don't always have that option unless you're using paints. But with acrylic formulas, basically you can do whatever you want. So that was very nice. I'm thinking of adding maybe clouds to this, but at the same time I don't really want to add anything else. So I'm gonna leave it as is and also leave you to watch the footage of me coloring in the other bird. While I'm talking about the coloring, I actually used some gray here because the original inspo image called for it, but I didn't always do the gray because honestly it didn't always look good, which you might have noticed in the cover page. I started trying to blend in some gray for the body feathers, but then gave up and just colored everything black, which honestly it looked better. Flipping over, we're gonna start on my dashboard. Sometimes I combined them, other times I separated them, and because I had a specific look for how I wanted my calendar to look, I decided to separate them. So here we're gonna have very simple layout for the actual functional structure. It's 4 columns, the last one being shorter than the others to fit in the illustration. But I have finance, work, habits, and goals. I'm not sure why I added habits there. Oh yeah, I'm replacing my lifestyle tracker. So I used that same font and tried to align it to the left a little bit, but it didn't always work. So it's fine. And then for the rest of the page, I just created borders around the headers basically. And I was supposed to add some red here somehow, some way. I'm thinking of going back and adding maybe 3 dots at the base of each rectangle to add that red circular element and repeat it on this page because it doesn't really have it, and this page lacks some red because in my head these birds had a lot more red than I thought or than they actually do. So yeah, that's it basically. I'm gonna be using these sections throughout the month, so all I need is space, basically no other structure needed. I'm gonna set up my trackers for the goals section, but later because I'm not really sure what or which goal I'm gonna focus on and prioritize for February. And then for the bird, it's just a flying bird, and I'm using the same gel pens. Here I'm using the larger nib, the 1mm, which produces a lot of ink, and I was really worried about the smaller feathers and the finer details, but it worked relatively fine. And these are acrylic gel pens. I could go back and outline if I felt like I needed to, but for the most part I didn't need to. It was very, very fun. I enjoyed coloring these birds in. And I will put the original inspo image for this specific bird on the screen. I think this is where I saw that these birds had black feathers and decided to incorporate that. So I finished this page, then went back to the monthly log because at that point it was the only one that I had done, and covered those feathers, but I rearranged the clips, so it was all sequential. Yeah, that's the word. Now we are getting to the weeklies. This is my favorite spread of this month. I love all of the pages, but this one is my favorite. We are starting with the header for each day. So as you can see, I've separated the page into 3 sections, the top and bottom ones being bigger than the middle. And that is because, well, I don't want to spoil it, but that's basically where we're gonna have the illustrations. That I can say for now, but I used the same font and just the initials for each day to write in that circle, and I decided to outline the circle because I thought it would be easier to outline than add the headers. But I outlined it with the red and then used the fine end of the brush pen to letter in the headers. So we have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and W for weekend. And I do think this is a little too small for the weekend, but that's an issue for future me. After I was done lettering all of the headers, I went ahead and started coloring them, or coloring the circles red. And this is where this pen actually surprised me because the coloring was very smooth and even. There wasn't any skipping, which is a little weird because in my swatches, these pens streaked the most because they are very fine. And I'm thinking it could be the paper. But while I finish this, and before we get to the exciting part, I would like to address what I said in my last Plan With Me video, which I said I was going to do simpler themes moving forward this year. So a beautiful cover page and then just functional layouts with pens basically. But then I disregarded all of that and went all out because A, I had the time, B, I really wanted to, and C, the theme called for it, okay? So you see me cutting the page here, cutting the middle part, and it's a Dutch door. Oh my god, I think I'm pretty genius for thinking this because the original inspo was not a Dutch door, but I was like, if I turn it into a Dutch door, then I do decoration once. And I've done this sort of style of Dutch door in January of last year, but the flap or the decoration panel was at the very top of the page, so I only had to cut one side, I guess, but here I had to cut two areas. I'm not making sense. But yeah, once I saw the layout and then thought to turn it into a Dutch door, and then February has 28 days, which is exactly 4 weeks, and in this layout I do 2 pages. It just all came together so perfectly, I couldn't resist. And if I'm gonna do elaborate decorative weeklies, I'm gonna do elaborate decorative all of the other spreads as well, which is why I chose a bird or two basically per page. But to be honest, because I traced the basic shape, these sketches and drawings weren't very elaborate altogether, and I finished this in 2 days because I had to separate it, but that's beside the point. It took about 3 to 4 hours, which is usually the amount of time I spend on one painting, so it's fine. I'm breaking the rules, but I'm the one who put the rules, so I guess it doesn't count, or there's nobody to punish me if it does. Anyway, we have 4 flying birds, and I like that they are heading towards the left, because the left is the last page, so they are traveling with us through the months, I guess. And there's 4 of them, and 4 weeks in this layout, which I just thought of, but I thought it was interesting. But yes, I had them, and this is also where I saw that they had black wings and decided to make the last layer of each wing black feathers basically. But yeah, they look gorgeous. I love them. I love how this looks. I'm so excited to use it. I opened to it randomly because it's so beautiful, even though it was very simple. And I like the style of the weekly. Once we are done with the illustrations, I'm gonna outline all of the boxes around the sections, the daily sections. And I thought of using maybe a unique or different border style, but then decided to keep it simple. But actually, it was because I forgot that I wanted to do that, so I went in with straight lines. Now, actually, as I flip through, you might see that the circles for the other side of the page will be a little brighter and maybe a little more shiny. That is because, as I said before, I was really excited and I thought I could go ahead and color in one of the spreads for the weeklies because I will only include one in the actual live footage. So I did that, but at that point I didn't have my gel pens, so I used a really bright red brush pen, and that was the red that I wanted to go for, except when I got the gel pen I didn't have one that matched it exactly. But then I also noticed that the red I chose from the gel pens suited the paper more, and because it's a gel pen I could use it on top of the acrylic paint pen. And so I did, except it took a really long time to dry. So if I pressed my finger on the circle, basically, it would stamp my finger or the page, depending on which side I'm pressing. But once it was dry, it was all good. The last page I have to set up for February is my monthly review, and then also a very special edition for this month. So for my monthly review, I titled it Feb in Review using the font, and also aligned it a little bit too far to the right, but that is okay. I wasn't about to risk me messing up this font by ignoring my lines, but I did that earlier. Anyway, February in review. And then for the actual sections, I decided to use the same style that I did for the weeklies, I guess. So basically a circle with the words initial colored in red, and then a border around it. And I just made the circles on the left of the square instead on the top of it, because I thought that would look best. So we have 2 horizontal rectangles that span the entire side of the page, or the entire right page. This is the left page. I am recording this when apparently I shouldn't be, because I'm making too many mistakes. But those are for highlights and challenges. Why did I give challenges such a big rectangle. I am just realizing that. And then 4 smaller sections, or 4 smaller rectangles that are basically split in half for achievement. Oh, what? This is so funny, but I got myself so confused. So the first section is highlights, the second one is goals, then we have accomplished, challenges, favorites, and finances. Now moving on to the special extra page that I'm doing for this month, because I haven't been using my reading and media log the past couple of months, and also because for February I usually like to include a self-care bingo, which is what we have here. So I have a 4x4 square grid, I guess, that I'm gonna have the items in there, and I outlined it with black and then wrote the bingo items in the red gel pen, but I didn't really include everything that I want because I haven't decided what I want on the grid yet. So these are most of the things, like buying myself flowers, reading a comfort book, trying a new baking recipe, some of the things that I have every year. But I do this every year. I include a bingo board for February, and then I'm free to accomplish these items whenever in the year, basically. And I titled it Self-Care Bingo in the same font that I've been using. And then for the illustration, I put 2 cranes facing each other. And the reason why I did that is because when I saw the picture, I thought that if they were close enough and I aligned right, their necks and heads basically make a little heart. And that is very sweet. I thought it was a really cute detail, especially on a self-care bingo. But yeah, I drew those illustrations, which is basically the only time that I drew cranes not flying, basically holding still. But yeah, that was very fun and very nice, and I really like that detail. And I'm gonna continue filling in my bingo board very soon. It will be part of my monthly reset probably. I have some ideas, but just in case, I might sprinkle in some empty bonus boxes, I guess. We have reached the end of my setup video. We are just taking a look at all of the pages all at once. I really enjoy how they turned out. I love the cranes, I love the color scheme. I think it looks especially nice on tan or craft paper. I very much enjoy the weekly layout. Everything turned out exactly how I envisioned it, and I'm really happy with that. And I'm really happy that I had the time and motivation to get this done early. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you're doing for February and leave me a red heart in the comments. See you in the next one.